Have you ever found yourself doing something in the middle of a ride and you're just thinking to yourself, why am I doing this? Like, what is going on here? I think so often as riders, we just get so maybe caught up in the moment that we don't really pay attention to the nitty gritty. And it can be then that maybe some habits that are really not serving us well in our riding begin to creep in. Today, I want to help you to begin to change those habits. I've spoken before about how to identify them, but today I want to talk about how you can begin to change those habits. So as when you do have this moment of awareness in the middle of a ride, you'll be pleasantly surprised with what you're actually doing when you're in the saddle. Okay, let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome to the Daily Strides podcast. My name is Lorna Leeson. I'm an equestrian trainer and coach, and I work with riders from all over the world to help you to improve your riding, to understand more about what you should be doing in the saddle, and also to train your horse, especially if you do not have the help of a regular instructor or trainer in the arena. Okay, so let's dive into these habits that we're talking about today. These habits, they can really and truly begin to counter, stack with each other once we get the right things on the habit list. Because I can guarantee that right now, you, whether you realize it or not, you have habits in the saddle that you're already doing, okay? And I call it autopilot. And you put different things onto autopilot. The problem is that for so many riders, it's the wrong things that are going on autopilot. It's like not so much this curated way of riding, the ideal way, okay, the way you want. It's more like just random additions that you picked up along the way, and you're like, your brain said, oh, that worked. Let's put that in there again, okay? And the problem is that we need to have the right things onto autopilot if we really and truly are going to have the ability to work with our horse without actually overthinking. Because if you're constantly spending your time fixing your position, fixing your posture, like correcting you, well, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for you to actually work with your horse to improve what the two of you are doing together, okay? So I want to teach you today how you can begin using autopilot to your advantage, because I promise you, as I've said, you're already doing things on autopilot. We just need to kind of get a little bit more intentional about what you're doing there. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is to make it as easy as possible for yourself. I see riders with the same issue over and over and over again, and it can be something so simple that can actually change that and help them to kind of overcome that. So a good example is what I call piano fingers. I'll see riders and they're riding along and they let the reins slip longer. And then they like shorten up the reins, but they don't shorten up the reins the quote unquote correct way. They do this piano fingers, or like they're playing a flute or something. I don't know. Okay. And their fingers start like kind of grappling and really just like moving like a spider along the reins to try and shorten back up the reins. Just wear gloves. There we go. Very simple solution to that problem, okay? Now, it does come down to how you're holding the reins as well. I understand that. But what I'm talking about here about making it easy is while you're busy working on holding the reins correctly, you could make things a hell of a lot easier if you got yourself a good, well-fitting pair of gloves and maybe a pair of reins that would complement those gloves, okay? There's lots of different types of reins. I'm not going to mention anything, but like a pair of reins that have a little bit of grip to them and a pair of gloves that like to grip on things. There you go. You're halfway to solving the problem. Okay, so I think things like this are important. Another thing I see a lot is riders who will struggle to keep their heels down, but their stirrups are too long, or maybe a swinging lower leg. Yeah, just shorten the stirrups a hole or two, okay? Or vice versa. If you're all the time riding on the back of the saddle, lengthen the stirrups a hole or two. There's so many different little things that right now, like really make an assessment of everything you're doing in the saddle and begin picking out things that, hold on, maybe I could change that. Maybe this doesn't have to be like that. I could put in something more supportive for myself and my horse in this situation. and do that, okay? Like really, really, really important, do it. Okay, another thing I've been saying for years is use checkpoints to your advantage. I like the idea of building checkpoints into your ride, especially when you're trying to change a habit. And all the checkpoints have to be is something that, is there already in the arena or wherever you're riding. Doesn't have to be in the arena, it can be on the trail, okay? But there's something there already that you then begin to associate with the new habit. So, for example, this could be the floodlights in your arena. The poles for the floodlights. I'm thinking about my arena now. That's why I'm using this example. But if we think about the poles for the floodlights, every time you ride past a pole that has a floodlight on it, so a tall pole, you then are like, oh, I have to just make sure that I'm doing this thing. Okay, holding my reins. Am I holding my reins okay? Let me just quickly check there. There we go. They're good. Carry on. And then the next time you get to a pole, oh, reins, oh, all good. Carry on, okay? And so on and so forth. You can do this with uprights of jumps. You can do it with shadows of trees. You can do it on the trail with like posts or gates or specific types of, I don't know, you can even use a tuft of grass, okay? You can use whatever is there. Get creative here. Think outside the box. But when you build that association, that is what's going to help you to get the right things onto autopilot eventually in your riding. So I want you to start thinking now, what, first of all, small thing can I change with regards to removing something or changing something that will make this easier for me? And I also want you to think about, what can I use as a checkpoint in my ride? What is there that I go past? Like the corners of your arena is another one, okay? I've said loads. But what can I use that, it's fairly regular. It makes a regular appearance. I find myself there on a regular basis when I'm riding. What can I use to then begin to build an association with a better habit that I want to begin to cultivate? And then from that, you could think of things like habit stacking. Now, I know habit stacking was made really popular, was it a year or two ago, with I think it was James Clear, but it's actually an older concept. I think there was a book written in 2014 about it. And it really just means that when you're doing one thing that you already do, you're just going to put the new thing with it. So you already warm up your horse, I'm hoping. Big assumption there, but hopefully it's a correct one, hey? So you're already warming up your horse. Why not use that time to really check in and use your posture and your position the right way? And allow those maybe 5 or 10 minutes, especially in the walk, where you, as you're warming up, to really, really get that tuned in, get yourself finely tuned before the ride. And you could even then, if we wanted to stack it further, use that again in the cool down. So when you're cooling off your horse, use the 5 to 10 minutes in the walk to really begin to align, to get everything right. And then in doing so, now you're starting and you're ending the ride the right way, which means that it's the middle bit we need to focus on next, okay? Or maybe you have a habit of checking your watch or your phone throughout the ride for a time, like you want to see what time it is and how long you've been riding for or whatever. Well, attach the thing that you want to do to that habit. Whenever you check your watch or you check your phone, check your hands or check your heels or whatever it is that you're actually wanting to change. But you're going to use something that you're already doing and you're just attaching the new habit that you want to cultivate to that thing. Okay? Make sure that the thing you're already doing is the right thing. Really, I shouldn't have to say it, but let's say it, hey? Yeah, make sure it's the right thing. Don't be attaching habits to bad things, okay? To things that are not serving you. Okay, so maybe you can have a think about that. You can have a think about, okay, every time I check my watch when I'm in the arena now, I'm going to automatically also just have a quick glance at my hands to make sure I'm holding the reins correctly, or I'm going to have a quick realigning of my position or my posture when I'm in the saddle, okay? And it becomes really, really easy then. And then from here, it's just a matter of tracking your progress. I think it's really, really important. We don't, as riders, celebrate the things that we're getting right enough, in my opinion. We tend to be very harsh on ourselves. We tend to get very down when it's not perfect. And, come on, it's probably never going to be 100% perfect, which is ridiculous when you think about how much emphasis we put on perfection, okay? So I want you to think about, how could I kind of begin to track those wins, and how could I maybe build in a few rewards with this? Like, I'm all about rewarding the horse. So when horses respond well, I like to build in a reward system that has to do with a softening. Okay, so softening, like it's a release of whatever it is that you kind of use to ask, because it's a pressure and a release. So if we think about that for ourselves, how could we build that into your riding now? And maybe you and your horse's riding. And I know that we could even think like more longer term. Okay, so if I ride really intentionally 4 days this week, I'm going to reward myself by taking 3 hours on Sunday morning to do a hike. There we go. Now I'm using myself as a personal example, okay? But whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you happy, like, could you reward that? But then if we're thinking longer term, I really think the benefit of the reward and the benefit of tracking the progress becomes so much better, because there's almost like this, you don't actually have to do anything to receive the reward. You feel it when you begin to look back over wherever it is that you've tracked things. And this is why I really, really, really strongly urge you to get a riding journal. Okay, I've so many blog posts, I've so many episodes all about that. I'll link to them in the show notes for this episode. But get yourself a riding journal and start using the thing. Like, it's not an ornament. And don't go hell for leather for 1 week. Like, be regular with it. We did this inside of Daily Strides Premium. Every 2 weeks, we have a live review and planning session. Like, I'm on the call with you and we do it. So if maybe that helps you, go check out Daily Strides Premium. Join us in there and get on those. And I help you track it out. I help you plan it out. I help you look back at what happened and make decisions going forward based on that. But you can do this for yourself. I think it's really, really important. And then finally, I have mentioned this, but I think it's worth really hammering the point home. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. When you can change one little thing, and this is where I do a lot of the time urge riders to figure out what's a symptom and what's a cause, okay? Because causes and symptoms are very often very different. But if you can figure out what the cause is of maybe a lot of the symptoms that you're seeing in your riding, and all I'm using the word symptoms to mean like things that you're like, that's not great, hey? But what is the actual root cause? And then focus on consistently changing or replacing or doing that differently. I think that's where it comes in. It's not going to be perfect. I've said this before. Horse riding rarely is. It's very rare that you'll get on, you'll ride, and you'll get off and you'll be like, everything was 110% perfect. The nature of horse riding does not allow for that, because it's all the time changing. It's all the time evolving. That's what balance is. Balance is only there because everything is moving. So it's really important to understand that with your riding. It's not going to ever be perfect, and I'm using air quotations, but it can be consistently better. And I think that that's a really, really important way to see this for you in your riding as well. If you're interested in finding out more about how you can really and truly begin to program better things onto Autopilot, make sure that you're signed up for the waitlist for returning to riding, because I'm going to have a live training coming up very soon that I'm going to dive into all of this for you, and you will get notification of it there. You can find all the details over at returningtoriding.com. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Have an absolutely fantastic week, and I'll chat to you soon. Be good. Bye.